Hello and welcome to the Everybody Dice podcast number 31, I believe, where we are going to be talking about should new editions of games change their original rule sets. Now, we've got a few things to talk about first, but hey, let's introduce ourselves. I'm Steve.
I'm Daryl.
And I'm Ian.
Wow, okay, that was
Different.
confusing. Yeah, a little bit different.
We're role playing each
Okay.
other.
Yeah, it's horrible. I don't like being married.
I smell of dog all the
So,
time.
I'm married, and
Do you know what the worst thing about being married is? Is if you ask your wife to videotape you shooting a longbow in the park near your house, she says no.
yeah, I can imagine that would be the most upsetting thing to be married with.
Yeah, it irritated me.
Yeah, I can imagine. I mean,
Poorly.
fair enough.
so it's good to hear that it sounds like you guys are coping with the lockdown all right.
Yeah, just about.
Yeah.
Good, good. Okay, I'll tell you guys about some of the things that have been happening on the website before we really get into things. First of all, we released our video review of A Fistful of Meeples on the YouTube channel, or you could also find it on the website as well. When I did the Fistful of Meeples video, I kind of, as part of the review, got out 5 tribes
Okay.
and recorded a little bit of that because there's similarities between the games in terms of the key mechanic it uses. The Mancala mechanic
Yeah.
is used in both games. And I mention in the video that it's unfair to compare A Fistful of Meeples with 5 tribes because one's a medium weight big box game and the other one's a small portable lightweight game.
Hmm.
But after doing that review, I kind of just want to play 5 tribes again, which I don't know, that it's kind of damning in a way.
I mean,
you know?
it is like saying it's unfair to compare Liverpool in their current form to Crystal Palace, but they are in the same league in that they're very similar games. So
Yeah.
at the same time, you should be allowed to compare them.
Yeah, I suppose so. I mean, they're light years apart. Like, your circumstances for wanting to play one may not be the same for playing the other, if that makes sense. So you can differentiate between the two that way. Either way, I'd still stand by that I think Fistful of Meeples was still a really good game.
Yeah, I enjoyed it. I thought it was fun.
Yeah.
Yeah, I like to too.
We also launched a new series. We did our mini-cast, which started on the game Bang. So what we're doing with those ones is we're kind of focusing on one game in particular and just talking about them, our experiences with them, what we like, what we don't like about them, and stories we've got from playing them before. We were planning to do these semi-regularly, and then I got sick. So I kind of had to isolate away into a room for a few days, so we haven't been able to record another one of those just yet, but we're hoping to get that back on track in the next couple of days, I think. Not quite sure what we're going to do the next one on just yet, but we've got a few ideas that we're banning around for that. You can find all those things on our YouTube channel. Just search Everybody Dice on YouTube and you should be able to find us. In fact, you should be here right now. And, well, unless you're listening on the SoundCloud version of this, but, you know. But you can also find it all in one place at www.everybodydice.com. Finally, before we move on to what we've been playing, I do want to talk about our new poll. The winner of last month's poll was Fast Sloths. So
Every time you say that, I want to go, our new poll, it's Wojciech. Wojciech is our favourite poll.
Oh,
But yeah, Fast Sloths won last month, so we're looking forward to doing the video for that. I think I've got a few ideas of what I want to do with that one already. But the poll that's just gone up on the Patreon, which you can go to at patreon.com/everybodydice, is between Corridor, which is kind of an abstract game. It's not a new game. This is a reissue of it that's just come out fairly recently. Secondly, we've got Tajuto, which is by Reiner Knizia, about building pagodas. We like Reiner Knizia here, so hopefully that'll be okay. Next, Alubari, A Nice Cup of Tea. which is kind of about railroads and transporting tea leaves and building a tea empire. Oriflamme. This one actually won a Game of the Year award in France fairly recently. It's kind of like their equivalent of Spiel des Jahres, this one. It's a really neat kind of... it's a game about the king being dead, and then all the different houses are kind of like fighting over who's going to succeed him. It plays quite nicely. Draftosaurus next. Really popular. It's a drafting game, but you're kind of drafting wooden pieces from a bag in it. Looks really, really cool. A very colourful game. Isle of Cats is another currently really, really popular game where it's kind of one of these where you've got the Tetris-like shapes and you're arranging them on a board, or in this case, a ship. You're mostly placing cats in there, but you're also making space for treasure as well. Shadows of Kilforth, which is a fantasy card-based game. Plunderbund is probably the game I know least about on this list, but it kind of looks like it's a Chicago mob-style game about controlling or racketeering around this kind of like fantasy setting, so it's got like orcs in and stuff like that. And the final game on our poll list is Planet Apocalypse, which is the new game by Sandy Peterson, who made Cthulhu Wars. So again, if you would like to do that, unfortunately you have to become a Patreon, which you can do over at patreon.com/everybodydice. But I probably put the caveat at the moment of really only go to that at the moment if you can afford it, because we know times are tough at the moment. But also... another caveat is that these games are really hard to come across at the moment because, as you can imagine, even the retailers that are currently supplying games, their suppliers are not necessarily operating. So in a lot of these cases, when the games are gone, they're gone everywhere. So I think already Draftosaurus is very hard to come across. However, I still wanted to put it in the poll because if things could easily change, you know. So we may still possibly be able to get a hold of that. And then the next challenge is actually playing them.
Yes.
Which, again, could be quite challenging if we're still in lockdown, which it looks like we're going to be in lockdown for a fair while yet, by the looks of it. Anyway, that's us advertising the site out the way. Let's get on to some what we've been playing. Okay, what have we been playing?
That's the tune, right?
It's something like that, yeah.
Yeah.
A fine rendition.
What have we been playing?
We've been playing the Worldwide Wrestling RPG.
We
Yes,
have.
So we've been opening this to our Discord channel. So yes, we do have a Discord channel now, and every so often we've been running an RPG for everyone. Like, people can come in and join in. It's absolutely fine. We've been running it on Friday nights, but I'm not sure whether we'll run it this Friday, only because I'm still not 100% covered from my play. So like I said, I'm not sure I want to necessarily run it this Friday, but hopefully the following Friday we'll be back to normal with it. We've been talking about running other different RPGs as well, right?
We have, yes.
So...
yeah, no, we have.
What just happened? Are you guys alright?
Yeah, we sync.
We all just short-circuited.
Yeah, then we just... I've been currently writing up a Star Wars one. Like, we sort of dabbled with it a little while back. I think it was you, Steve, and...
Jay and Matt?
Jay wasn't in it, no, Matt wasn't, Andy was in it.
Andy, yeah.
The others were going to join, but it was just
Jay has a
commitments.
character for it.
He does, doesn't he? Yeah, so we kind of decided that we might potentially just... I don't know, you wanted to create a new character, didn't you? You were not sure if you wanted to keep your...
Depends what we're doing, because if we're doing Force and Destiny...
The one I was going to plan on doing was Force and Destiny, so it was going to be quite Jedi-related, or at least
if the
somewhat
story's going to be
Force-sensitive.
super Force-sensitive related, then I want to play a Force-sensitive.
Yeah, it kind of makes
just
sense.
play a hanger-on that doesn't really do much.
No, it kind of makes sense within the storyline and the time frame that you guys would have powers. But if everyone wants to do it, we'll just change it to like the. That's the good thing with the Star Wars ones. They're all interchangeable between the 3 books, or 4, I think there are, but there's 3 main ones. So
I mean,
yeah,
in
we
which case
just,
I'll probably play the same character, and I assume we'll just refresh as if that hadn't happened.
yeah, pretty much. Or it'll just carry on. Well, the plan is it was going to carry on from that point, so it depends on really who's in and who's not. But yeah, we are looking into doing more.
I'm looking forward to getting my hands back on my brown lightsaber.
Yes,
So,
you play a completely brown Wookiee with a brown lightsaber, so
yeah,
could be
I
fun.
love that you got a brown lightsaber. It's my favourite bit. And I like
Yeah,
the idea
it's-
that when it turns on, it has a different noise as well, like a noise that makes you go, oh.
Like a really low growl.
You're just like,
Yeah.
oh no, why is it doing that?
Oh god, how did you get it to do that?
like a trombone, just go. Okay, Worldwide Wrestling RPG. Anyway, let's talk about that a bit.
Yeah,
It's
'cause
amazing.
Let's start with the first episode we ran, which kind of started with the absolute. What, it was Absolute British Wrestling. I've forgotten the name already.
Yeah.
The world champion coming down to the ring and kind of running his mouth and being confronted by our two, I suppose, heroes at the moment,
I would
especially
say
for this episode.
anti-hero.
Yeah. The Sultan and El Perro,
Yep.
played respectively by Iain and Daryl.
Yeah.
And then we had a couple of very, very quick squash matches. Iain, do you want to tell us about your squash match against Johnny Wrestling?
Okay, so imagine basically the Great Khali, isn't he?
Yeah, essentially.
Sultan.
Yeah.
But he has like this gimmick where he like performs the Kali Ma from Indiana Jones on people. He's like Kali Ma and pulls their heart out. It's not a real heart because it's wrestling, and it's not real blood. It's Ribena because it's
Was it Jam?
no.
At
I've
one
been using
point.
Ribena.
It was Ribena. It was definitely
It's
Ribena.
always been
Amazing.
Ribena. It's got a brand deal with Ribena that the fake blood is Ribena.
Sponsored by Ribena.
And Johnny Wrestling squared up to this enormous Egyptian powerhouse in the ring. I think I lifted him up by the head and then slammed his head into the ground and then
Yep.
removed his heart and the match ended.
Yep, pretty much.
That's it.
That was it. And we'll get to a problem this caused later on.
Yep.
But before we do that, you had an interesting opponent, Daryl.
Yes, I did. So,
Oh god.
my background story is I was raised on the mean streets of Mexico by Chihuahuas. So I'm essentially a stray, and my dear 14-year-old Chihuahua mother was in the audience watching me, whilst what was his name?
Randy Beef.
Randy Beef decided to essentially do Party Boy out of oh god, what's it called, man?
Jackass.
Jackass, yeah. At my mum in the audience, so that was interesting.
Randy Beef. Randy,
and then because
Randy Beef.
Randy Beef, because I didn't know what to do, was completely stunned. He just kept doing it. Actually, I think I left for a second, didn't I, to go do something. Come
I
back
think you
and
did, and we just decided he was still dancing
for
in
like a
front of your
good,
mum.
I don't know, 5-10 minutes. He was just dancing. It was ridiculous. So ended up going. I've got quite a high. There's some different stats and stuff in the game, but because I'm playing like a sort of luchador, I have quite a high technical aspect to me. So essentially, I went up to him and did a chop, which I absolutely nailed and hit him. And then I went for another chop so hard that I knocked him unconscious and had to drag him into the ring and then just pinned him. It was incredible. Chopping someone
pretty
so
much.
hard, you basically knock them out.
So, just to preface things a bit, Randy Beef was genuinely
Randy
supposed to
Beef.
be like a gigolo kind of character. So, yeah, he kind of comes out with his trousers on that he rips off in front of a female member of the audience, and it all gets a bit out of hand from there.
Totally PC.
So, after that, we had a tag match scheduled afterwards where they would be teaming with the opponent of the other match in a match against the other sort of thing. So this meant that fair enough, the Sultan was teaming with Randy Beef. However, Daryl's opponent was, or Daryl's partner, El Perro's partner, was incapacitated, but
Yep.
that didn't stop the show from going on and the paramedics dragging down what was essentially a corpse and just rolling it into the ring.
So my favourite bit about this is, which is something I realised after the fact. Once we'd all finished and we'd come off Discord, I'd sort of thought to myself, wrestling's just like an entertainment thing, right? So it's like acting, which means the guy who plays Johnny Wrestling was acting as if he were dead. Which makes what happened to him in the next match makes him one of the best actors of all time. Like the fact that he managed to convincingly play a corpse for the next hour. I mean, bravo.
Amazing.
But yeah, so essentially, I think the first real challenge in this match was getting Johnny Wrestling out the ring, because El Perro and the Sultan, I think, were starting things off. I think.
Yeah.
So whilst you guys were wrestling, the referees were just trying to drag this corpse into the corner on the outside, so that everything could carry on as per normal.
Oh no, it didn't
in the
start.
ring.
I threw. Oh no, who did
So
I throw?
You threw your
The first thing you did was you threw Daryl into the corner so hard that he ended up kind of almost dangling over the rope in his corner and accidentally tagging in Johnny Wrestling.
Yeah.
And at that point, the match was the Sultan versus what was a corpse, pretty
It was
much.
ridiculous. It was so ridiculous.
And I think this is when you started throwing Johnny Wrestling around, I think. Like, just throwing this limp, lifeless body. I think you threw him over the top rope, as far as I remember.
I think I
And then
threw him at my partner.
Yeah. Yes, because
No, so
he was knocked out on the
that's
ring.
it.
Yeah,
So
it did happen.
my partner was fighting Daryl. He tagged me in, and whilst he's walking around the ring, I threw the corpse at my own partner.
Yes, yeah. And then I think we had this whole, like, ridiculous segment where Daryl was trying to throw Johnny Wrestling back in the ring because he was going to get counted out. The Sultan and kept failing, so every attempt you had to throw him back in, he was doing things like bouncing off the ropes and then back on top of Johnny Wrestling. We had the Sultan go to the outside and try to jump on them, but missed. So we kind of had this whole weird section that lasted for a couple of minutes of Johnny Wrestling getting the better of everyone, I think.
As a corpse.
As a corpse, just because we had a really brief period where everyone was failing their roles. That was really cool until eventually everyone did manage to get back in the ring. I think Daryl managed to tag back in.
Yeah, just about.
And I think this was the point where we actually started getting a fairly solid match. I think of the Sultan beating down El Perro and El Perro just kind of not giving up kind of thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's so funny.
We had these whole exchanges where he was obviously getting really badly beaten down by the Sultan. And I think there was one moment, like the match ended, when El Perro looked like he was completely out and done, and he was in a submission hold. I think he was in a bear hug, and his arm had the ref had picked up his arm and it had just flopped down like twice. And then the third one, just at the end, he kind of picks it up and kind of like powers himself up a bit. And then the Sultan just smashes his head against his knee or something, I think.
I think, yeah.
And that was enough just to end it at that point.
I think I held him up by the throat or something at that point, didn't I?
Yeah, it was something like that.
I choked him out.
Yeah, and it was over. After that, I think the last bit was kind of the current champion, Richard Wealthy Man, just kind of baited him up the ramp to get attacked by these two huge guys called the Mountain Men, who were the current tag team champions, who just beat him down kind of like to end that first show. the second show got a bit crazier, I think.
Yeah.
It took a while though. It really hit kind of like peak crazy in the last match, because we had just a few kind of like standard matches, I think.
Oh, Mr. Tater.
Mr. Tater.
Mr. Tater, who had a match against him?
It's Mr. Tater versus
Oh, wasn't it the
Cheddar.
It was Kevin Cheddar, wasn't
Kevin Cheddar.
it? Yeah, Kevin. So, Mr. Tater is what can be described as John Cena in a potato outfit.
Yes,
Right.
that's exactly what Mr.
That-
Tater is.
That's actually it. And Kevin Cheddar is. It's Paul Blart Mall Cop, isn't
It's
it?
Paul
But
Blart Mall Cop, but
in drag.
cross-dressing.
Yeah,
That's so
yeah.
ridiculous.
And I can't even remember too much about their match, to be honest.
The gimmick of Kevin Cheddar is that he's like venue security, and he steps in to break up the fights.
But he's kind of gotten into a thing with Mr. Tater at this point. I think Mr. Tater has just been a really bad boy. And,
That's a direct quote.
yeah, and Kevin Cheddar is going to try and teach him a lesson, though unsuccessfully, because unfortunately his role is he's a jobber, so he always loses. We also had another new wrestler, Banapa, which apparently translates from Russian to Viagra.
Yeah, that is correct. Yeah,
But
God.
but what was it? He's essentially just like your stereotypical Russian, I think, is pretty much his
so
gimmick, though,
he's
right?
a Russian man who wears a long sleeve jumper and a pair of tight pants and a little black
Yeah.
hat.
Yes.
Oh my god.
Yeah.
Yeah, and his entrance music is horrendous.
It destroyed my ears.
I mean,
Oh,
it's brilliant,
God.
but it's horrendous.
Yeah.
Because I was going to
don't
say
know if I'd
he
brilliant.
he had a match against El Perro, right?
Yeah, me and him did, and like again, it's a bit like me versus the Sultan of Slam. It's very much a size and power difference, whereas they're very
Yeah.
much power orientated. I'm very much more like flippy and technical, and it really I got beat hard.
You did, but I think it was down to nefarious means. Like,
Yes.
we had. It turns out Banapa and Mr. Tater are a tag team, and yeah, they kind
No
of like
idea
you had
why.
Mr. Tater.
Russians and potatoes, I think, was the link they made.
So the thing about Mr. Tater is probably why he's a bad boy is he was on the outside kind of interfering and stuff. So that kind of happened earlier in the night as well. I should probably say that again the Sultan was kind of led into another trap in a match, which
Oh
he
yeah,
did
I
win.
completely destroyed one guy, and then the other ambushed me.
Yes, with a chair again, which kind of set up a future match where the Sultan has to find a tag partner, and they're eventually going to fight at the big pay-per-view for the tag team titles.
Yes.
So, really, everything came to a head at the end when Banapa and Mr. Tater, having cheated to win against El Perro, were booked into a match with the Sultan and his partner, whoever that might be, and it turned out to be the freshly beaten down El Perro.
El Perro Sin Balas.
Yeah, so, I mean,
That was so awkward. Like,
yeah,
Oh.
it was I think
mean,
one of
I'm
the funniest
delighted
things-
that we pulled off the move which I'm coining as the Desert Arrow,
the Desert Arrow is incredible.
oh, that's great.
which
Would
was
you like to explain it?
the Sultan picks up El Perro, both of whom are from nations with hot desert lands,
Yep.
and he throws him at the opponent.
And I just started to go really stiff like an arrow, basically.
Yeah, and the idea is I use my power to throw him at the opponent, and then El Perro uses his technical ability to hit or latch on. I mean, I thought if I threw your leg first, you could like
Hurricane Rana.
Hurricane them. But yeah,
Can you imagine the impact of me getting fired into someone first, spinning at such ferocity and spinning them down?
I'm just delighted we pulled it off. It was it was
It
very
was
cool
good.
move.
It was good.
Yeah. We also had interference from Kevin Cheddar
Yep.
over the course of it. I think he came in with a giant net and just tried to catch
Came in on a
Mr.
Segway.
Tater. Yeah, on a Segway. He had a kind of little ramp, I think.
Yeah, he
did.
did.
He kind of like ran up,
Custom ramp.
jumped through the air, but then was... I think he managed to successfully net Mr. Tater, however, was then caught in midair by the Sultan, who kind of just smashed him back down to the ground and dragged him outside of the ring.
I didn't want him interfering in what was my opportunity to show that I could be a lethal tag team with El Perro.
Yeah.
So I intercepted him midair and beat his face down, but he had already thrown the net, which he netted Mr. Tater.
But these antics kind of like carried on for a while because I think Mr. Tater started
tagged
down
out
with you.
Yeah, and then me and Mr. Tater beat up Kevin Cheddar outside the ring.
I think there was this really wonderful moment as well when after a while I kind of let Phil know, who was controlling Kevin Cheddar, you're kind of getting conscious, you're getting yourself kind of like back to your senses again now, and he decided to go round and try and handcuff Mr. Tater to the ring post whilst he was on the outside. I think at this point Banapa was the legal man in the ring, but he stuffed the roll up so hard that I could really not do much more than say that something went really wrong and you've just managed to handcuff yourself to the to the ring post, at which point he was on the outside for the next part of the match, and people were just using him as a punching bag. At one point, I think someone screwed it up, and he said, "Okay, well, whilst he's coming towards me, I kind of lean in and kiss him or something."
Yeah,
he
kissed Mr. Tater.
I don't know. It like I say, it really got a bit crazy, but I think we ended up with El Perro and the Sultan beating. I swear they need a tag team name, don't they? Mr. Tater and
no, not us. Yeah.
I like that. I think my favourite part of the match was Banapa tagged in, and I headbutt him.
Oh yes,
successfully, and then I headbutt him again, and then he headbutt me, and then for roughly 12 exchanges, we just headbutt each other and let the other have a go, and then we headbutt Kevin Cheddar.
Oh yes, yeah.
So ridiculous.
Oh man. But yeah, I think we've been having a lot of fun with this.
Yeah, we have.
Our next episode that we're actually doing the Regal Wrangle, which is a match type that they outline within the game, which is kind of like the Royal Rumble, to try to determine who is going to be number one contender for Richard Wealthy Man's title. So we've got that to look forward to next. That's probably going to take up the entirety of the next show. So, yep, that's what we've got planned for that one. So that's the Worldwide Wrestling RPG. Do either of you guys have anything else you wanted to talk about at all?
I think
What
I
you've been
played
playing?
D&D.
Oh, okay.
So I
You
can't
did?
remember. Did I tell you about the second session? Or just the
You
first?
have
No,
not. You've
just the
only
first.
told us about the first.
Right, so the second session happened. It immediately started with what can only be described as a racially abuse-fueled fight.
Right.
We turned up at Birkland, which is an island nation. It's basically Brexit Britain, but in D&D land. So we turn up. Me and one of the other characters go off to con some people into buying some seawater in wine barrels. In the meantime, the dwarf character decides to stand in the middle of a square where they are human, sort of. They're anti-not human. What's the best way to put that?
And is Iain? Is it? No, wait.
I don't know.
Xenophobic?
human. I don't know. They think humans are like the Aryan race style thing. They're
Okay.
Nazis basically. So this dwarf is kneeling in the middle of the square, and people start throwing stuff at him. The dwarf's response was to commit genocide, as you would. So the dwarf rolled an intelligence test and failed, and then he proceeded to start killing everyone.
Oh god.
Um,
Wow.
and we tried to get involved trying to stop him, and then so there's a half elf, a half orc. I'm the half orc, and the dwarf. The half elf got knocked out by someone because of racial prejudice, and I was sort of holding my own against two guys, but it got to the point where this had gotten way out of hand. There were people getting killed. So I grabbed the half elf to try and get him to safety and escaped down an alleyway before the Rozzers could show up. And yeah, the dwarf was arrested
Amazing.
for
Okay.
basically killing, like murder. And it's like, all these people were like, see, I told you non-humans were disgusting. And it's like, you're doing us no favours by proving them right. Um, but yeah, it was horrendous, actually. The
Yeah.
the level of slaughter, like it was very murder hobo. I wasn't expecting it, and I don't think any of us were really.
Right.
It got out of hand really quickly. Um, the only way he could get out of his punishment, which was life imprisonment, was to help defend a cartload of Brexit votes to the capital. So basically, he ended up being security.
Right. Okay.
He also had to convince me and the half elf to come back and help because honestly, we weren't so keen on it after watching him randomly kill a bunch of people.
Right. Yeah, that
So
sounds fair enough.
we
So,
defended a cartload of Brexit votes, which probably would have turned the tide of the vote. So we had to defend them. We saw an ambush way ahead. So the best thing about the dwarf, the half orc, and the half elf is we've all got night vision, basically. Humans don't. So there's just like humans waiting to ambush us, and we just saw them way, way, way before they saw us. So I hid in the woods and went Rambo again and picked them up one by one. And when I got back, the half elf and the dwarf were so interested watching me commit predator on these humans that they weren't watching the cart, and the two drivers were killed and all the votes were
Oh
taken.
no.
So,
oh god.
so I came back going, we've successfully avoided that ambush, to look at this cart just completely empty. So we had to hunt down these votes and get them back. And turns out, basically, Nigel Farage had hired some people to steal them.
Oh god.
I think it was
Oh.
Norman Furridge, I think was his name.
Norman Fudge.
Still, this sounds a hell of a lot more exciting than stopping a bunch of hackers from adjusting votes. So,
Yeah.
yeah. Sounds all good to me.
So yeah, we stopped that. We got the votes back. Norman Farage attacked us with his hired goons. We took Norman Farage prisoner in a fight, and we took him to the capital for trial. So
If only politics was just as exciting as that.
Yeah,
I'd
no.
turn into the news a hell of a
a
lot
dwarf
more
has
often.
been arrested today amidst Brexit votes, killing like 8 guys.
So have you got another session planned?
I don't know. I think there is definitely going to be another one, but I don't know when exactly it will be. So
Yeah. Okay. I've been playing something else.
what have you been playing?
I've played a little core space. I've talked about it a few times, and I've finally had time to sit down and actually play a couple of rounds of it. Haven't been able to sink my teeth into the campaign yet because you can play these single player. I really like it from what I've played so far. The idea of the game is it's. I'm not going to say this is a miniatures game. This is a board game disguised as a miniatures game. essentially it's made by Battle Systems. You know the guys that make those clip together scenery things. It's made by them, and you actually get a full set of clip together scenery for it, as well as a neoprene mat to play it on. So the quality of the stuff you're actually getting in the set is really, really high. You also get the miniatures as well. You can use to assemble your crew. So the way you assemble your crew at the beginning, if you're doing it completely from scratch, is you have a number of points and you're allowed to assemble 4 people together, one of which has to be a captain, and then the rest are just regular people. Then you basically trigger a series of missions, which all have varying numbers of people that you can send on. So your roster of people can actually grow over the course of the campaign, so you can find more civilians that can join your crew and stuff. Like I said, each mission has a limit on how many people you can actually send out, but it kind of gives you different options as the game goes on. They can obviously level up. The main thing in the game, though, is finding equipment. If I was going to compare this game to anything, it would be just something like Diablo on the PC. Because essentially it is a dungeon crawler, and the aim of almost every dungeon is to scavenge as much as possible, look in as many crates as possible, find gear, make your crew better. There is almost always an objective within the level, and usually if you're playing multiplayer, it's a competition. But however, you can work together. In fact, the introduction campaign, they actually say it's probably best not to screw one another, at least not too often, to hold grudges during this campaign, because there are going to be parts in the campaign where you are going to have to cooperate with one another. So having no trust there by those points is probably not going to be a very good thing. Because it is very possible in the campaign for you to be completely wiped out and out of the game completely if you lose enough crew members. It's got a lot of things that are similar actually to battle companies, where whenever one of your guys is incapacitated and isn't helped up by the end of the game and taken back to their ship, you have to roll to see what happened to them. Sometimes it can involve actually doing an entire mission on your own, rescue mission, although you can genuinely barter with other people to get help getting them back. So you can ask another team, like, oh, if I give you such and such equipment, would you come down and help me extract this guy out of there? And stuff like that. So there's a lot of really cool things you can do with that. The thing that's really cool about this game, though, is the way it changes over the course of the game. So it starts off as a competition, trying to loot the best stuff, trying to do the objectives that you've got in your mission, and getting the hell out of there. And there's something that's going on called the Scourge, where there are these robots that are kind of like slowly taking over space, basically. And they'll slowly be turning up over the course of every mission, and they just get stronger and stronger and stronger, and it eventually gets to a point where even if you manage to take one of them out, he's going to come right back again in the next turn. So if you take too long, you will die, because these things just keep coming. So at that point in the game, if someone is in real trouble, they'll start trying to negotiate with the other team for help. You can use the other team's airlock where their ships landed to escape through the map if they agree to it, and stuff like that. So there's loads of really cool ways this game actually goes in. The actual system works really, really nicely as well. It played really smoothly, and I honestly think that as more people learn about this game, I think it's going to get more and more popular. Very easy to do. You can buy crews, pre-assembled crews they've got available. So every crew in this game are a balanced team of people, but they're not set to that team. You can start cherry picking people from each one to make your own crew. There are also rules if you get the deluxe rule book, which I don't have, for designing your own people. So if you want to make your own model out of bits from another game or something like that, you can actually have your own person.
That's pretty cool.
To throw into the game as well. Yeah, so there's lots of stuff like that.
Would definitely appeal to Iain.
Yeah.
I love making models, and as such, would be well up for that.
Yeah, it's a really interesting take on this because this, like I said, I wanted to call this a board game rather than a miniatures game because this is not a war simulation or anything like that. This is very much you are space traders and you are scavengers basically, and the aim of the game isn't really to kill one another because if you wipe out the other team too quickly, you could find yourself really outnumbered by the Scourge when they come into it. But it's very much like more of a, I'm gonna get a load of stuff and make a load of money kind of thing. Because there are some really cool things like there's a little cardboard ship that I bought that you can build,
Nice.
and when someone gets enough money to it, and they do say this will probably take you around two playthroughs of campaigns with the same crew in order to get enough money to use this. It's essentially a drop ship that you can just drop on the map and pick people up and just go. Really, really cool little idea. But yeah, a lot of really neat ideas going in this game. Really impressed by it. Do either of you guys have anything else you've been playing? Because I've got one last thing to talk about.
I've just been painting stuff, Aeronautica Imperialis stuff.
Yeah, to be fair, we'll do the same. Not Aeronautica, but just painting little boys.
Yeah?
Not Orky boys.
Okay. Orky Boys,
Yeah.
is that for...
Oh, didn't you play Blood Bowl?
I did, but are we counting that because it's an online?
I think so.
Yeah,
'cause-
sure.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So, a couple of Ian's guys, I'm going to call them that. Want to the Ian side of the family.
So this is a group of people that I have been planning to play Blood Bowl with in person. Who
Yes.
Who want to start playing Blood Bowl on sort of Steam on
Mhm,
the
mhm.
online game, so that we can get the grip of the rules and start
A proper league,
basically.
yeah. It was good. I had a couple of games with I was just playing with like a standard orc team that it created for me. I suck hard at it, but but everyone agreed that probably orcs aren't the best for me. I have played the orcs before. I think it was in. God, it must have been last year somewhere with Matt with the actual miniatures, and we were just sort of learning the game. I think it's having to understand the game again. Like a couple of rolls I made were a bit silly, but I did some really stupid choices and stuff like that. But all in all, it's actually quite enjoyable. I'd be quite excited to get involved in a league kind of thing, just to kind of definitely online. I still got to pick my ogres and sort out my real miniatures, but yeah, it's all right.
Ah, cool.
Oh,
Good
apart
stuff.
from midway through, my PC decided to have a hissy fit, and basically the screen just went mental, and it started like blotching a little bit. So when I was like trying to see stuff, I couldn't see. By the end of the game, where I'd lost, but this wasn't the reason I lost, but where I was losing anyway, the screen pretty much became it's hard to explain, like almost like pixelated mess, and I'm just trying to see what's going on. And at the end,
It's a virus from all the porn that you watch.
no, never, not on this computer. And there's dedicated machines for that smut.
You need like GTX 980, like Twin Titans, like
Yeah,
quad-core processors, really powerful PC to run the stereoscopic 3D
VR.
dolphin porn that you watch.
yeah, yeah. Yeah, I have to wear
Hey, Daryl,
a full
why
suit.
do I never see you using that computer?
It's specialised. It's inside a loft. I had to build.
I need privacy for this one.
I had to basically build, and its own liquid-cooled loft area, just because
So that when the police send the helicopter over, they can't see it with the heat sensors.
no, there's
and
no
arrest you.
heat. Oh, man.
man.
They only see a centralized portion of like heat around one part of you. They're like, something's like, there must be so much friction in that one location.
But everywhere
What
else
is
is a
it?
cool 23 degrees.
Okay, guys. Let's move on.
Should we?
Okay, I've got one last thing I'll talk about before we move on to some news. I played Mike Garley Samurai Slasher Survive Your Own Adventure.
Yeah.
I backed this one on Kickstarter a little while ago and received it in the post the other day. I'm not going to go too much into it simply because it's a story-driven game. What I could tell you is that this is quite obviously a meat grinder. It's essentially about kind of a slasher movie style setup where in the vein of things like Friday the 13th, there is a killer on the loose. You've gone to a cabin for party time, and he's starting to kill everyone. Essentially, the way I played it was stick with wherever the largest group of people was. So whenever you had the choice, I always thought, well, there's more people over there, so he's more likely to kill this, and this person before he kills me. Essentially knowing that if ever I chose to go it alone somewhere, I was probably going to die because there was no one else to kill. Because almost every time it makes you turn a page, it would usually get to something like, oh, he's killed someone, or something like that, you know? So essentially, it was stay with the group kind of thing for as long as possible. Failed it twice and managed to succeed it on the third try at it. It's actually like the first choose your own adventure book I've played for a long, long time. It was a nice little welcome extra, I suppose. It kind of fits this whole board gaming thing. I just really wanted to get a bit of a shout out in there because Mike Garley has featured a couple of times on here, I think. So
Yes.
yeah, check out his stuff. I think it's mikegarley.com that you can go to.
He creates great content, but is an awful person.
Wow, what a review.
Okay. Yeah, that's me done
Wow.
for what I've been playing. Shall we move on to some news? Okay, I think me and Ian have got a couple of news pieces this week.
I've been a
Darren's
man.
lying in a news grave.
Well, I've been trying not to look into the news because everything's so negative at the moment, unfortunately. And most of my normal feeds are just crap, so...
Okay, would you like to start then, Ian? Or shall I? Okay, you
As
go ahead.
per standard procedure, mine is literally just GW releases. Is that right?
Okay, yep, yeah.
So
Yeah, you go
they
ahead.
did like a mass. They like announced a few or showed pictures of a few things yesterday and like the 30th, so like the last couple of days. So Aeronautica Imperialis has got an expansion, which I think they announced a while ago, but they've shown some of the models for and done like some info stuff on. So it's Tau versus Imperials. So there's the new Imperial models are is it the Lightning fighters? Yeah, and some Valkyries, which are like the gunships that the Imperial Guard get. And then the Tau have got their cool. Are they called Mantas? I feel like they're called Mantas. It's like the aircast ships, which are very cool. But the idea is that the Imperial stuff is cheap and expendable, and the aircast stuff is super powerful and techy, and has cool like little buffs and things. But yeah, the models look pretty cool. I'm sort of hoping someone looks at the Tau and wants that, so that I can play Aeronautica Imperialis. Other stuff they've announced, so Primarch of the First Legion, Lion L. Johnson, has been shown. They announced it with quite a humorous YouTube video. Basically, it's like a Marks and Spencer's commercial. It's like, do you want your Primarchs to be strong, have long, beautiful locks, indomitable spirit? And it's got like all the other Primarchs which sort of embody that. It goes, well, why choose? This isn't just any Primarch sort of thing. It's very funny. But yeah, the model looks really nice. Yeah, pretty perfect. Other things that have been announced: the Scions of Flame. So the new warband, Chaos One. It's basically people on fire,
Yeah, that's pretty sweet.
which looks really cool. I'm pretty on board with that. Also, Fabius Bile has had his picture shown for the first time. He looks significantly taller, as per standard GW size creep. But he looks really cool. It's not too far from the old model, but it's just enough to update it to keep it relevant. But it's really nice. He gets like weird little mutant guys to help him now as well. But pretty standard rule stuff for him as well. So you can make a squad of Chaos Space Marines like weirdly enhanced using his weird stuff that he does to people.
Yeah.
other things they've announced are the Lumineth Realm Lords. Again, on a YouTube video, they showed all the models for it. So, I mean, I know they revealed some of it about 2 months ago, but I think this is the first time they've gone into depth about what models they're releasing, which is basically elves. This is a
Okay.
thing GW are doing a lot at the moment, which is they're half renaming some of their lines and then copywriting the new name, but sort of making the name interchangeable. So, Imperial Guard they couldn't copyright because Star Wars and some other bits, I assume. So they called it the Astra Militarum. Space Marines, they've got Adeptus Astartes. What else is there? I know they've done it for quite a few bits, but elves they can't. Obviously, high elves and things like that they can't copyright. So they've started calling them the Iodine Deepkin and Lumineth and stuff like that. So they're starting to give stuff names that they can copyright.
You see, yeah, I always remember when I came back, like, for a little while to Warhammer 40,000, and I was looking for things like Eldar, and I was looking on the site, I was thinking, where the bloody hell are they? Because
Yeah, they're called
obviously
Eldari now. Yeah,
Yeah, everything's
everything
changed.
had, like, changed, and it became very confusing, I found. Like, if you've been away and you've gone back,
yes.
it's not very recognisable anymore.
No, I know exactly what you mean because obviously the Eldar, there's the Drukhari, which is Dark Eldar, and I want to say they're called like the Yinari.
Yanari are like
Yeah.
everything pretty much. Like
Is
a
that all
weird.
the Eldar? And
Yeah.
then something like
Yeah,
that.
I
But
think this is where it gets quite confusing and stuff when you have been away and you come back and you have a kind of like a look around. You can kind of like work it out eventually. It's not that difficult, but there is definitely that initial confusion at first where things have obviously
think-
been changing.
stuff that obviously is very popular in sort of other lore that lots of things use. So stuff like orcs. Orcs are now called Uruks,
Right.
ORRUK, in like the in fantasy battles and well, Age of Sigmar stuff. So they're going out of their way to rename stuff in a way that they can copyright and make their own, which I get, but people are always going to call them their old names. Like I will still always call the Imperial Guard the Imperial Guard. It's a cool idea.
Yeah.
I've kind of gone off subject, but yeah, they've made some new releases.
Okay, that's cool.
They've also announced, it's not board game related or war game related, but they've announced a new thing, which I think is going to be like a online animated series based on an Inquisitor.
That's quite cool.
Okay.
But they just basically did a huge release of random things on their YouTube. So if you go to Warhammer TV on YouTube, you can see all the new stuff they've released
Yeah.
or plan to release. And going slightly off GW for a second, there's been another wave of Star Wars Legion stuff announced.
Okay.
Yeah, that does look pretty cool. I'm holding off, but yeah, it does look cool.
Yeah, they've released models from Mandalorians, which is my kink, so I will be getting those.
It does mean you have to be rebels, though.
I haven't got a problem with that because I also want some Wookiees.
Oh man, that'd be amazing.
So I'm just kind of a Wookiee Mando combo.
That'd be ridiculous.
But yeah, there's some nice models. There's also some, yeah. If you go on Fantasy Flight website, you'll be able to see it in more detail. But been a lot of new releases for stuff, or at least announcements for new releases, which I guess is whetting people's appetites for when they can start going outside and touching other humans again.
All right. I'm gonna stick to the miniature stuff here because I'm gonna talk a little bit about Infinity CodeOne. Infinity CodeOne is the new Infinity system that's coming out. What's interesting about this is it's advertised as a streamlined system of the currently Infinity version 3 rules. However, it looks like Infinity 3 is going to carry on, and this is going to run in conjunction with it. So the way it's going is it kind of looks like it's a jumping on point for people that have seen it. It's going to be starting with the release of Infinity CodeOne Operation Coldstrom, which is going to see a starter set, which has this really nice kind of reinforced cardboard scenery now. they kind of upgraded it when they did their last one, Operation Wildfire, and the pieces are way more sturdy than compared to what they used to have. You still have kind of like the paper playmat and things like that that goes down, which looks a bit crap, but it's better than nothing. It still brings a bit of theme to it. The theme for this looks really, really cool. Essentially, it's going to be Pan-Oceania versus Yuqing is the theme of Operation Keldstrom. You essentially get 7 miniatures for each side. Like I said, the scenery, the tokens now are like a really thick cardboard now and a hell of a lot better. And you get a version of the rules as well. So this is going to be the first look into the CodeOne rules. Don't know when the full rule set's going to be coming out. I think they originally said end of April, though I imagine that's changed now because it looks like this set is coming out now at the end of April. Looks really cool, where it's kind of like more of an Arctic kind of theme to it. All the models now that you get in this one are kind of like wearing like thicker fur coats and stuff like that.
That's really cool. I would like to see that.
Yeah, unfortunately, on the site that I'm on right now, it doesn't really show the Operation Coldstrom stuff so much. What I can show you guys, though, is there is a Dire Foes pack. And if you've ever known Infinity before, the Dire Foes sets tend to be these things where you get 3 models. You get a civilian and then 1 model for each side. And these ones, they come with a mission as well. So it's usually one's trying to escort, say, the civilian model, and the other one's trying to take them out. And the models for the Dire Foes ones, the civilian looks really weird, but in particular, the Pan-Oceania guy looks really freaking cool. He's essentially just got a massive hammer, more or less. I don't know if you guys can see that there, but yeah, that's
Where are we
neat.
looking?
I should have the share screen going on Skype.
You do not.
I do not.
Yup.
You do not.
Technical
There we
difficulties.
go.
Oh,
Hopefully that should do it.
there we go.
Oh, Steve, you can't watch that. Not whilst we're doing a podcast.
Oh, he's
That
very.
is a very cool
very
model,
cool.
and I want it.
Yeah, that Pan-Oceania one is very nice. The Yuqing one's okay as well. But yeah, it's like, for some reason, they can never get civilians right on this thing.
Oh.
But yeah, I thought that one might generate a laugh. It certainly
It
did
just
with me
looks
as
like
well.
he's going, oh.
Yeah, there's kind of like no panic on the face or anything like that.
You're in a
It's
war
just
zone.
kind of a bit... Yeah, I suppose so.
It's very
But
cool.
yeah, that's everything that I had for the news this week. So how about we get to an audience question? We actually have an audience question. Okay. Hey guys, Ian has mentioned he plays Europa Universalis.
Oh no,
a
who's
few
asked this
times.
question?
We'll get to- Are you guys gamers, and what do you all play? Thanks, from James Parker. I kind of want to modify this a little, this question, because I will say right now that we do kind of let guys know what we're currently playing, and in fact, Ian, you've literally just talked about Europa Universalis on the current newsletter.
So, James, hang on, let me open Steam.
Oh no.
I have. I'll show you how many hours I've got in EU. I've got nearly 1,000 hours in EU.
That's crazy.
I play it a lot. I enjoy it a lot, and it's a relatively old game. So, recently, I mean, you were going to say, weren't you, that we have it in our newsletter? What we're
Yes,
doing.
we do.
James, if you donate $1, you can see screenshots of my current Scandinavia game on Europa Universalis. I started as Sweden. I took control back from Denmark, and I've made something of a Baltic Empire. I've just taken England out of the game as well. So, and I'm playing it multiplayer with a friend who's playing Venice, who's doing a similar thing in the Med. So, yeah, I'm doing well. I'm I'm taking very much most of control of Northern America, and I'm starting to push down and give Castile some hassle. Um, but yeah, yeah, I play Europa Universalis a lot.
Daryl, what sort of things do you play?
Um, at the moment, I'm going again. This is on the game. This is on the newsletter, but essentially, I'm going through a lot of Game Pass stuff. Um,
I think this is why I said I was going to kind of modify the question. I didn't actually get round to it, did I? Not necessarily what we're playing at the moment, but perhaps where most of our gaming kind of like comes from. Like what just generally do you kind of play?
I'm quite interested in like I don't want to say like first person shooters sometimes. I guess first person shooters I do quite like, but I need something with a good story. So I've kind of gone away from uh, Call of Duty stuff like that. So I'm at the moment playing on and off Ghost Recon Breakpoint, I believe.
Yeah,
It's playable. I know initially it
Is
wasn't.
it playable? Because I spent 50 quid on it on release, and I'm pretty cross with it
Yeah,
still.
so I didn't spend that and didn't buy it on release because I heard you guys saying about it. To be honest with you, it plays okay. I haven't tried it online multiplayer with like people or anything like that. But just as a sort of single player game, although it's a bit more, I would say, it very much is a single player game because the Wildlands you had AI teammates, which they haven't decided or even bothered to put in this one. So you are just on your own, a lone wolf. I do find these kind of games do get a bit boring because there's a lot to do. There's no central. There is a story, but there's loads of stories, and I always find those kind of games get me a bit tired, and I can't bother with them anymore. Um, so I would say I usually like that kind of style of stuff, but mainly anything with a good story, so like RPG style things. Like I'm trying to think really what I've been playing. That's Skyrim, stuff like that. But again,
Oh,
open world
Skyrim's
stuff.
good.
Yeah, open world stuff tends to get a bit tedious after a while. So it needs to have
yeah.
such a good story that it grips you for long
So
enough.
this is where me and Daryl differ immensely. I think Daryl, who's been playing Fortnite recently
Yep,
again,
yeah.
I think is a very you like the action there and then,
Um,
don't you? I think you like the getting straight into the business of a game
yeah. To be
and
fair,
enjoying the enjoyable part of the game. Whereas I am a boring dad who enjoys grinding. I'm not a dad, but I act like one.
you like grinding.
I like playing like boring dad games. So Europa Universalis, anything Paradox, like big strategy games. I play a lot of Football Manager. Um, it may well be ticking away in the background right now as we're talking.
It probably is.
Um, it is. I think I've got a game against Arsenal in the Carabao Cup quarter-final coming up that I need to prepare for. But um, Skyrim is the sort of game where I love the fact it's super grindy and you can wander around and do stuff. Like I almost put off the final missions of games so that I can spend time wandering around and messing about.
Mm.
I'm that sort of gamer. So yeah, I mean, I feel like, I mean, should we do a little top five?
Yeah,
I guess so.
yeah.
Yeah,
Sure.
At
am I going
5,
first?
yeah, yeah. What? Yeah, who's going
Ian,
first?
he's still talking, so might as well.
Well, okay, yeah, I'll go first. Can we use series of games as like
Yeah, yeah, because you probably narrowed it
Sure.
down.
overruling factor? Because there's no point me going, oh, actually, I really like Pokemon this one.
Okay.
Sure.
Because they're all the same game, really, aren't they? So, 5 Football Manager, 4 the old Red Dead Redemption,
Ooh,
3
controversial.
Europa Universalis, Paradox games in general, 2 Pokemon games, and 1 Fable.
Oh,
old-
yes.
Wow, okay.
Okay, yeah.
Fable is my favourite game of all time.
Fable is
Yeah.
so
Playing that
good.
way. It's what I used to. I spaffed so many hours into that game.
Nice. Daryl, you want to go next?
Yeah, I would say Pokemon games in general probably, yeah, would be 5. I like them, but I find myself like never always completing the main missions, the main story, and just giving up or going back to it at a later date. Uh, I would say at number 4, probably Halo as a franchise. there are certain ones that are a lot better than the others, but in general, Halo's been a strong franchise. And number 3, Assassin's Creed. I would say again, it does have its hits and miss, but I do quite love an Assassin's Creed game. See, it's difficult choosing 2s and 1s.
You're such a AAA gamer.
Yeah, I am. But then there are indie things I like. So this is the thing, like there are indie
See,
games.
I'm so cool because I like games that aren't as popular.
Yeah, something like that. Do you know what? Actually, at number what am I on 2? At number 2, I would say Lego games. I am a sucker for Lego games.
Wow.
Yeah, do you know what? I've always, I think it was ever since I started playing the original Star Wars games when they were on the like 360 or whatever. There's
Yeah.
just so much fun to be had with them, and it's
I
not.
have such a controversial opinion on Lego games.
I know you do. But
I think they are the most joyless cash grab.
yeah,
Like it's.
I will say
they're atrocious.
the newer ones.
Like they have
Definitely.
charm, but they are garbage.
Yeah, maybe. The older ones, though, I still stand by. The original Star Wars trilogy was fantastic. Like, that and... I'm looking forward to the new one they're bringing out, which is pretty much just a rehash, but of the Skywalker stuff. It looks pretty good. Number 1. I don't... Do you know what? I don't know really what I would say I love playing the most. Yeah, do you know what? No, I can't think of anything that would be that high. Like,
Oh god.
Yeah,
So,
You have a number 2, but you don't have a favourite game.
well, the problem is I've listed all I've listed all the ones that I really enjoy, and this is the problem.
Then
Like, I
scoot
can't-
them up and pick a 5th. Can't do that.
If I don't like Lego games as number 1, like this is the problem.
No, exactly. Well, then that's your fault.
Oh,
What are you doing? You're ruining this.
I've destroyed all sense of anything.
okay, Daryl, you've shifted everything up and you've just got a top 4 then. I
Yeah, top
suppose.
4
So Lego games are number 1.
for me, apparently so.
Oh god.
God, I thought I hated him before.
I think so. For me, I will definitely have a bit of a crossover here because I think at number 5, I'd probably put the original Red Dead Redemption.
Yeah.
I'm not so sure I'd put the second one on there.
No,
What's
first
the
one's
hate
better.
for the second one, man?
Yeah,
It's not hate. It's a
Yeah.
brilliant game. I just have the nostalgia for the first one.
I think the second one's come at the wrong time for me. I'm not really into so much the big, wide open games anymore. I think number 4, I'm gonna kind of put the Doom series
Fair
in there.
play.
And I think it's kind of carried by the new Doom games
Yeah.
as well, because like I've been playing a little bit of Eternal, and it's incredible. Like I've really enjoyed the first one the first remake one as well. 3 Mass Effect 2,
Ooh,
probably. Number 2 would be the Monkey Island series of games.
Oh, yes.
And my number 1, and this is really a nostalgia thing, is going to be a Final Fantasy 7, I think. But specifically 7, because again, I just can't play those games anymore, and I dread if I ever go back to 7 again, because I'm not sure I'm going to enjoy it so much.
Are you going to get it or not?
I don't know. I really don't know. I'm open to it. I'm not as much of a gamer these days,
true, fair
so
enough.
I
Can
just
I,
don't know.
Can I say some honourable mentions? Because I feel bad for leaving some games out now.
Sure, of course.
So, when you said Monkey Island, that hit me really hard. When I realised
Yeah.
that I'd left Monkey Island off my top 5.
Yeah.
I'm a bad person,
It-
I should feel bad. Same goes for, what's it called? Where you play Manny.
Oh,
gonna bug me.
yeah. Jesus Christ. Grim Fandango.
Grim Fandango.
Yeah,
thank you.
yeah.
Grim Fandango
Yeah.
is
God, man, that's an old
Top-
boy.
top 5 material.
It is. It's so
Do you know
good.
what?
The thing is,
Original Star Wars Battlefront 2
Yep.
yeah, yeah,
is top game material.
yeah.
Skyrim is also top game material.
Yeah.
Elite Dangerous is also top
Oh
game
god,
material.
yeah.
I love Elite Dangerous. The only problem with Elite Dangerous is that I'm an adult, and the amount of work that goes into playing Elite Dangerous is more than I can take in a day where I've already been working.
I think
Um,
I
yeah.
probably would say in general, actually, I'm quite fond of Rockstar games. just all out. There's
Yeah, they're just good, aren't
there's
they?
just
Yeah, yeah,
they have enough going for them. I think they've had a couple of like I would say a few people found the LA was it LA Noir one?
LA Noir was great.
Yeah, some people
yeah.
found
It
that a little bit
was,
different and weird.
That's a good
but it
thing.
was amazing still.
Well, I
Yeah,
liked the kind of the social kind of face aspect where they had these like kind of really deep animations. So you had to
yeah,
like try and guess if someone was lying in.
If you go back and you play it now, it does look super janky.
I did want to get it as the remaster, but I thought I had enough time with it before, and the story was really good.
Yeah,
yeah,
It's
I wouldn't
yeah,
want to play that story twice, personally.
no,
I
it's
feel like the twists in it won't be as entertaining
no
the second time
exactly.
around.
Um, it
yeah,
was an interesting game. I like the fact that you kind of went through different departments as your
Yeah,
character and stuff. It was cool. Bully, man, Bully was such a good game back in the day. I don't know if you guys ever
yeah,
played that, the Rockstar one.
yeah.
yeah.
But anyway, I think we're getting off topic here.
Yeah, okay. I think at this point we've got the big topic still to talk about, so let's move on to that. And that topic is, should new editions of games change their original rule sets?
Yes.
So, in other words, there's a lot of reissues of board games and stuff like that. I think the most recent one that any of us got was the June reissue that Daryl bought.
Yes.
So,
Do you want to say? Go
the
on.
so one of the things I wanted to say was what I mean by this is when you're releasing a reissue of an old game, should that be with the intention of tweaking the rules, or is it a case of should you just release things as they were because they're not in print anymore and it's just bringing an old game to a new audience?
I think I've got two things that come to mind. One is the Dune board game, and another one is the Star Wars RPG, not the new ones, the re-release of the 30th anniversary original series.
Yeah,
Both of them slightly different. So Dune has been slightly updated. Apparently, the core mechanics of it still remain similar to the original version, but they've added kind of a I don't want to say like a walkthrough, but they've added a sort of a dumbed down, watered version where you can essentially play it a little bit easier than what the full kind of game used to be. So it kind of brings that accessibility to newer players, which I think would be really useful for us because obviously I've heard that the game is I don't want to say like super hard, but it is quite full on.
yeah,
And it's very much like a big strategy type game, which it sounds really really good. It seems really fun, but having read through this kind of like wiki how quick to do list thing, it doesn't seem too difficult to approach. I think it's just when you start getting into more advanced mechanics, which it could be a little bit more extreme. Um,
yeah.
as for the Star Wars RPG, they haven't. They've just reissued the books as they were. They didn't update it with the new, They haven't updated it with the Star Wars Destiny dice. Nothing like that. So it's
Okay.
essentially just D4s as it used to be, which is really, really cool. So it is just essentially a nostalgia thing if people want to play it the way they used to do it. I mean, you could probably house rule it and play it with the new dice, but it's just a reprint, which is nice because it's kind of two books. One was massive amounts of backstory and lore, and it was one of the things where apparently at one point it kind of saved Star Wars a little bit with people making up different stories and stuff, which is really, really cool.
I think the thing here is you've really got two sides to this. The purists are probably going to want it released as it was before. However, I also feel like, on the other hand, sometimes things change over time
Yeah.
and rules. Sometimes an old rule will start to feel outdated when released as a new game, therefore, you have to change it slightly. However, I think there are dangers with that because quite oftentimes when you tweak one thing, you also have to tweak another. And sometimes you could be tweaking several things and all of a sudden it doesn't feel like the same game anymore. So it's a really delicate issue because let's face it, when a game's released, it is balanced in a particular way normally, usually if it's any good. And there is, I think it's fair to say there's significant risk by actually changing things, but sometimes it's necessary.
I'm going to go ahead and say yes, it's something that should happen.
Yeah,
Games are fluid, especially when they're still in mass use.
Yeah,
Good example is different editions of rule sets for tabletop games. I think it's just a natural part of the way a game expands and develops and become like, especially when you're introducing stuff like, I'm going to use 40k as an example because it's the one I know best.
Mhm.
Um, if you're introducing new armies and things, it changes the way the rules might be perceived for certain things, and you need to edit them as they go to make it fair and balanced. And different editions sort of will bring into check and bring into balance the things that were perhaps missed in the last one. It's FAQs are one thing, but sometimes an overhaul is required to make something function in a way that's more fun and usable.
yeah. The thing is I could actually probably give an example here as well of where it hasn't worked. Arkham Horror, a game I mentioned earlier in here, the version of the game that I've got, the one previous to the one that just got released, uh, it's a beloved game, but it nowadays doesn't necessarily feel like a great experience. It's a bit aged, and there are story-driven games that handle themselves a hell of a lot better than Arkham Horror does. So naturally, when they did the most recent version of Arkham Horror, they changed an awful lot to it. I mean, a lot. It's almost not recognisable as the same game when you actually see it laid out on the table. And generally, people don't like it as much.
I mean, there's tweaks and changes in favour of the game are
Yes.
positive. Changing the entire soul of a game to fit something else, yeah,
Yeah.
you can go too far, but I think games are always going to be in constant flux. Like new metas are always going to be found, and games need to adapt to make that balanced.
Yeah, I almost feel like it's an art form because the things do have to change, but the right person has to be making the changes on it to know just how far you can push it with how much you can change. Because if you do go too far with it, you're just going to end up displeasing everyone, I think.
Yeah, I mean, I know Games Workshop did a recent release that changes how Iron Hands work because they released them in the new Space Marine stuff, and they were just so strong. Everyone was just using Iron Hands and dominating tournaments. They just had to go and change it, and I think it's necessary. Otherwise, we would be stuck with an edition of 40k where people are constantly playing Iron Hands
Yeah,
because that's what wins tournaments, and that's not fun.
yeah. I mean, honestly, I can't remember the last time I bought a game that was a reissue and it was almost exactly the same as it was before. I think there's a reason why things are usually tweaked in them, which is sometimes a little bit disappointing because sometimes, like for example, they recently reissued Atlantis Rising, and Atlantis Rising was always a popular game. This reissue sounds like it's one that's done it right, but it's still not the same as the old game, if that makes sense. So you have to inevitably shell out big money if you want to play it as it was before, and sometimes that's a bit of a shame sometimes. I think generally, though, at least in the case of Atlantis Rising, people seem to be saying that the reissue is better. So, yeah. Yeah, but people that say want to play the older Arkham Horror game, which at a time everyone regarded it as being a fantastic game, people can't get that anymore. They've the only version they can get is this new version that people don't like as much.
It's kind of a shame.
That's kind of a bit sad. Um, it's an interesting one. I'm completely on the side of Ian here, I think, though, I think when you reissue a game, you do have to look at it, and you do have to try and freshen things up.
There's always room for some improvement.
Yes, exactly. But I think at least these people that are going to start tweaking it, they have to take care. Yeah,
You can't take the soul out of the game that everyone loves.
definitely. 100%. With that, I think we're drawing this to a close. So, if you have enjoyed this video, then please give it a like, share, comment, or subscribe. If you'd like to follow us on our social medias, you can at Everybody Dice on Twitter and on at Everybody Dice Show on Instagram. Please do click on anything that might have appeared over here and check out more of the videos. Or if you want to find everything in one place, you can do at everybodydice.com. Also, send us questions, finally, at mailbag@everybodydice.com, and we'll answer them on the podcast. Until next time, bye!
Goodbye.
Bye.